laugh at this next part.
In a world of political correctness and cancel culture, two comedians have risen up to prove that with the right angle, anything can be funny. Live from Golden Ox Studios in Cleveland, Ohio, it's Steve Mers and David Horning. This is You Can't Laugh at That.
Who writes these?
Hi, welcome to the podcast that I just tentatively titled You Can't Laugh at That, where we take topics that are too taboo to joke about, and we take them on from multiple perspectives and prove that, yes, Steve, everything can be funny.
Yeah. I think so. And yes, my name is Steve. My name is Steve Mers, and that's the other guy talking.
I'm the other guy. Not from the movie The Other Guys.
Oh man,
I'm not from any movie.
I'm never one for the pageantry of beginning something. That's why I don't make a good host. I'm like, hey, all right, let's just get right into it.
Just roll right into it.
Yeah.
Just open up with a racial slur and we get this thing going.
All right.
Yeah,
so
my name
anyways,
is. I'm David. I'm David Horning, and we are both. We consider ourselves comedians. We've been told that we're comedians, so I guess that's something that we're going to go with.
I've told myself I'm a comedian.
I wake up every day, look at myself in the mirror, dead in these baby blue eyes, and I say, David, you're a comedian. And then it happened. It's like The Secret.
Yeah.
Willed it into existence.
You don't want to get too crazy with calling people comedians because then they inflate their egos. And
yeah, they make it part of their name on Facebook.
Yeah, comedian, such and such. It's very it's fun to see.
It's like, oh yeah, oh no, that's a picture of you at an open mic. Okay,
more than likely bombing.
How did you get on that show?
Yeah, how did you get on that open mic?
Yeah, how did you get on that open mic? What do I have to do to get to your level of comedian?
Yeah, coffee shop guerrilla inconveniencing.
Right.
Yeah. So
we came here on a first date, and now we got to listen to rape jokes. Sweet.
Yeah. Oh man, let me tell you. There's
great.
A new comedian. I'm not going to say who it is, but they just go straight into the date rape jokes, and it's like you'll figure it out at some point that this is just never going to get you anywhere.
No.
Like he has potential, but as you know, it's one of those things. What were you saying?
It takes time and energy and falling flat on your face so many times to be able to earn those jokes. It's funny to watch these, people who've gone up like once or twice and they just dive right into a topic they have no business talking about, which is why today we are going to talk about
trans people. Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Two white guys. We are the foremost experts on transgender people. No, this is basically what we're going to do is we're going to go into a joke that a comedian told recently.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I'm introducing the clip. Michael Che from Saturday Night Live got under he just a lot of heat. He got a lot of heat for telling this joke on Weekend Update, and so we're gonna talk about it, kind of dissect it a little bit, and go from there, and try to find some angles on this that are objectively, can be fun.
Right, but see, bear in mind, objectively, we can talk about anything, but subjectively, we are white in a societal context.
Right.
That's what makes it different, and I understand that, and that's the one thing you have to be cognizant of.
Right, and the reason I wanted to do this podcast and this sort of theme is to kind of help understand like something that we don't necessarily always understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
experience.
Kind of,
it's about life experience.
It's a sounding out of where we are, and like we're constantly trying to be better. If you get on stage and you tell a joke that gets groans, but you think it's funny, it's like, okay, there's a gap between where I am with this joke right now and where it needs to be to turn those groans into actual laughter. To be able to turn it around. Like I've been doing jokes about Jared from Subway recently, and I've been getting a lot of O's, and I'm kind of navigating how to transform those O's into laughs, or like, those groans, and then the next punchline is one that brings them back. Like that's my goal, because it's inherently funny. Anyway, got off track.
over the years have been able to get people to do that too. It's one of those things you just have to understand the psychology of comedy, and
it's a process. I mean, you can't just like when somebody who goes to a comedy show and they hear a joke, to them it's just like that's the joke, but to us there's so much more to it. There are layers upon layers upon layers. If you're any good at it, I mean, I don't take a joke and just look at it at face value. Like there is meaning, there are levels as to why it's funny to me, and why I want to share it with other people.
Yeah,
and share that laugh. So, Michael Shea, weekend update this past weekend. Here it is.
Rapper Kanye West released his new gospel album, Jesus is King, yesterday, and it's also being reported that Kanye will be altering his old hits with more G-rated lyrics. So, yay. At first I thought Kanye was losing his mind, and now I feel like he's fine. He's just turning into an old white lady. I mean, he used to be like one of the coolest black dudes on earth. Now he's showing up to events in sweatpants and orthopedic sneakers, listening to Kenny G and trying to get black people to like Trump. It's like, how long before this guy changed his name to Kathy? Now, you might think that I'm crazy, but about 5 years ago, there was a fella named Bruce Jenner.
Oh, they cut it.
Yeah, that's great.
They cut it.
Wait, so that wasn't. It almost seemed like that was a joke in itself, where they cut like, oh, you're not like.
Yeah,
so it did go longer.
Yeah, no, there were audible groans, and someone was just like, no, when he told that joke. Oh man, now I need to find this. I didn't know they cut it.
Did you notice something about the mic? I'm not going to comment too long about this, but when he stops talking, they turn his mic off so you can hear the audience.
Yeah,
and then they switch it back. You can
yeah.
tell it. We need to do that at comedy shows. That would be. That's how you get the laughter in there.
Unplug the XLR
right.
and then plug it back in. Oh man, I'm sad that they cut that. But I mean, you could see where he was coming from. Like Kanye obviously has been associated with the Kardashians, which for some reason are closely associated with Caitlyn Jenner, which is. But what people were mad about is that he brought up. He said it's called dead naming somebody, saying their name before the transition. Bruce Jenner, like saying that is a taboo.
Or just say Bruce Lynn.
There it is. It's a combination. But the fact that we're ignoring that Caitlyn Jenner was once an Olympic runner named Bruce is completely. I mean, to me, that like
there's already an implication.
Can't just whitewash history like
there's
that.
already an implication of that athleticism where it's sort of when all that controversy about athletes, trans athletes competing against other people and then just blowing away the competition,
right?
Because it comes down to it's sexual dimorphism. Men are just bigger than women on average. There's a considerable amount of overlap, but there are just different biological things at work there. The thing is, it's when it comes down to ability, mental ability, and all these other things, there is literally it's wide open. Your size and your mental capacity are completely different. And I think people like to think that women are inherently inferior just because of sexual dimorphism, but that is just not the case.
Yeah,
and so that should be stressed.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's almost projection. Like, I don't. I'm a man. I'm better than a woman.
There's an inherent ironic inferiority to that, where if you think you're smarter than women, it actually makes you pretty stupid to think that.
Oh, yeah.
I think of that the same way white supremacists feel that they're superior to African Americans. If you're so superior, you would know that you aren't. You would know that if you're really a smart white guy, you would know that you're not smart because you're white.
Right.
That makes you an individual. It's not ascribed to your gender or your sex or your race, which is not even real. But that's objective, not subjective. Race is real in the societal context, but not in a biological context.
Right. It's just like how close did you grow up to the compared to the equator?
There are a lot of things, but that is a big one as far as your phenotype goes. The way you look on the outward,
right?
Which is it? very tiny percentage of such a minuscule percentage of your genetics. It's entirely inconsequential.
To me, I mean, this whole ranking thing, like, I'm better because I'm white or I'm a male. It's an ego-driven thing. That's like, all right, whatever helps you sleep better at night, man. Shay's joke there. Here's the thing with his joke is, like, the setup. He was building to it, and then the punchline just kind of fell flat. Because the audience was with him the whole time, and it was funny, Kanye's gonna show up, he shows up in sweats and orthopedic shoes, he's gonna change his name to Kathy and become an old white woman.
Shape ups,
and that's hilarious. And then he invokes Bruce Jenner and loses everybody. And the thing with SNL though, like, when did that album drop? Last Friday, last Saturday?
Yeah.
So he had a day to write that joke. If that, hours to include that joke there. Michael Che is such a talented comedian in the way that he handles controversial topics. He's so likable on stage. The words that he uses, his composure while he's up there is just very nonchalantly like talking to you. It seems like more of a dialogue than a monologue when he's performing. There's a few comedians that are just so natural on stage like that. I would like to see where that joke would have ended up had he had more time to really work it out and like get over the groans, get through that, and figure out how to make it into to that last punchline, make that the big hit.
Wait, what was his punchline again? You said it right?
I'm sure there's
that is missing for me, so I need to know what that was. It's one of those things where it's not only what was the punchline, I need to hear it the way he said it, because that is at least half the battle right there.
Everybody's calling for his head to get fired, and it's like,
no, don't
that's
do
not
that.
How that. Yeah,
no.
Shay's so-called joke went like this.
So-called joke, like you are the arbiter of jokedom.
This is from IndieWire. He used to be one of the coolest black dudes on earth. Now he's showing up to events in sweatpants and orthopedic sneakers, listening to Kenny G and trying to get black people to like Trump. It's like, how long before this guy changes his name to Kathy? All right, and then this person says, taken on its own, the joke is fine, even mildly funny. If Shay had stopped there, it would have been a perfectly acceptable quip that didn't necessarily even reference trans people, much less in a disrespectful way. But Shay had to go and bring Caitlyn Jenner into it. Now, you might think I'm crazy, but about 5 years ago, there was a fella named Bruce Jenner, and he moved to Calabasas. In one short sentence, Shay manages to use the word fella, the incorrect pronoun, and Jenner's previous name. He misgenders her, dead names her, and actively calls her a word that it's safe to assume she would never use to describe herself. As a refresher, using a trans person's birth name is referred to as dead naming and is considered an act of violence.
That's bullshit. I'm just gonna say it.
An act of violence.
It's an act of violence, verbal violence. There's assault. There's all these other, there's verbal, illegal, transgressions. But it's weird how when you even in talking in the past tense, he was speaking in the past tense. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But then what the fuck is the problem?
Right. That's what I was saying
Even
earlier.
in the present tense, that's like, depending on the context, obviously this is a little confusing, but because we need to hear what that would be, what that would sound like. He definitely said what is not nomenclature or whatever you want to call it. That would be just like a faux pas or like a misnomer or whatever you want. What word I'm looking for, but it's I don't know. It's just funny how I can sympathize with a lot of things that this person might be trying to allude to, but directly from what you've been telling me, it seems. I don't know. I also don't have the article right in front of me. It's I like to read, be able to kind of soak it in here. But it's like, I think it's a little bit far. What is this, IndieWire?
Yeah. Another reputable news source, like Slate and Jezebel.
Yeah.
Here's like, if he had referred to Caitlyn as Bruce in present terms, like I understand that if you are talking to somebody who's trans and then you're calling them to their face by their birth name, that's messed up. Like that, you don't do that.
You're being disrespectful, especially. It's like one thing to accidentally do that, which I can totally sympathize with. Sure, that could be disrespectful, obviously, but when you, just as if you were to do that, to take this out of this subject matter's context and do it to something else, it would still be disrespectful on some level. And it's like, I get that, but it's like, I don't know. It just crosses a line, and it reminds me of all the reasons that Donald Trump is president. Because this is what the left is being painted as. Not that it's inaccurate either. I think it's just sort of amplified. And it's sort of become a straw man or a sort of sensationalism, you know. My impulsive opinion is I don't agree with this.
I get what people who are offended by this are trying to do. You know, they want more equality in how we refer to a group of people that are like coming into the mainstream, and we're in a period in history where things like this are more accepted. And to react to somebody who probably doesn't really understand it yet, doesn't have a grasp. I mean, I have, you know, I respect it. I just don't have the understanding to, you know, I mean, I'm obviously not an expert.
I'd say conversely, my sort of knee-jerk reaction to it is like, no, that's bullshit. But also, you just have to remember that one thing about not just transgender people is there's also just the LGBTQ community as a whole. These people, it's funny how people are like, it's not natural. Oh, it's not natural? You think these people are choosing to just live a life of pure rejection and denial and hate because it feels good?
Yeah.
Clearly, it's extremely natural. It's extremely natural for these people to want it. It's not for attention, because it's not all publicity is good publicity. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't believe that. No. I really don't believe that. It ruins their life. But they at least get some relief out of living the way they feel they really about who they are. You know what I mean? So it's like. To live a life of just sheer rejection all the time, I can see where the animosity comes from. Or I don't think that's even the right word, because that almost sounds like, you know what I mean? Like it's the animosity towards them, even just having to deal with people shitting on you all the time. As far as like labels go, and who you like calling Caitlyn Jenner Bruce. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on. For me, I think if you're talking about past tense, that's kind of a bit much.
Yeah, there's a way to dance around it.
If you point on a box of Wheaties and you see Bruce Jenner, and you ask, "Who is that?" I'd be like, "That's Bruce Jenner," but that was Bruce Jenner. Yeah. Who is now Caitlyn Jenner?
Yeah, where's Bruce Jenner now? Well, Bruce Jenner is a 62-year-old man who lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's Caitlyn Jenner now, you know?
One more comment.
Yeah,
there are bigger fish to fry than labels.
Oh, I agree.
I think that you're approaching it the wrong way. That people make mistakes, and people are just now learning about all this stuff and figuring it out, and it's becoming more normal. And I think 20 years from now, all of this will seem weird, and I'm going to sound like an asshole on some level. But I'm trying to be objective, too. But also, it's like one of those things where you need to get more to the core of these things and not worry about sort of labels. You need to, like I said earlier, you need to establish the fact that a lot of this stuff is natural and logically explain to people why would they be this way unless this isn't who they are? Because why would anybody want this negative,
No,
attention?
Of course not.
No way. There's no fucking way.
And to attack people for their misunderstanding of it is not the right strategy.
It's not productive.
It's not. It's, if you want to be more accepted, don't yell at people to accept you.
Right.
Like, just
let people be dumb.
Right.
And allow them to learn from their mistakes.
And like you were saying, I mean, what all people really want is they want the freedom to live their life how they want it.
I think people denying them aren't doing it to be an asshole per se. They are assholes on some level. I mean, depending on who we're talking about, but they aren't. They're naturally reacting to this. This is just the way humans are. We're, but it's a process, and it needs to. But people need to be. There's definitely a middle ground here for sure.
For sure. So Michael Che, asshole.
I think he might actually be an asshole, but not like in this sense. I think a lot of people are assholes.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy. I think he's very funny. I don't know. I don't want to say he's definitely an asshole. I'm just saying, like, who's to say he isn't? But not necessarily for this reason. For this, no. So I don't want to pass judgment.
Right. I mean, just on this one thing. I mean, there were so many better ways to approach that joke. And this next clip is Nikki Glaser from the roast of Alec Baldwin, where Caitlyn Jenner was actually on the dais. She was one of the roasters. So, of course, Nikki Glaser goes in hard, as she always does. She's such a good comic. So, Nikki Glaser on Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner, I just want to thank you for all you've done for the trans movement and the size 16 stiletto industry. You were such an incredible athlete. People forget just how fast you once ran from your first family to go be on a reality show. Seriously, though, I know being a new mom is hard. But even Casey Anthony knows the current location of her daughter. You're a Republican. I don't know why. You've already gained control over a woman's body. What does that party have to do to lose your support? Be your son? Caitlyn, I know you've only publicly identified as a woman for a few years, but I just want you to know that I know that deep down you have always been a and I spell it with a K, though, for you. You're great. Thank you. You're great.
You know what's funny? What's weird about when people like to, well, the lack thereof, parsing what makes a joke funny, what makes it offensive, blah, blah, blah. A lot of those jokes are matter-of-fact jokes. They're not like, you're trans, you suck. That's not how that works. It's like, it's wordplay. It's a lot of things about who she is. And they would apply to anything about anybody's sexual orientation, who they are as a person. There's ways you can do that about just about anybody. The only thing that makes it sort of iffy, or at least people get a little sensitive, they're like, oh, it's about trans people, I don't even want to think about this.
Right.
And with comedy, you don't have time to intellectualize a joke. You have to react to it, whether you laugh or not. And if you're not in the mode of just wanting to just laugh at whatever is actually funny, then you're not there to have fun. And I get it if you want to just be safe. Like, anybody gives a shit what you think anyways. Like, oh, don't flatter yourself. No one cares if you laugh or not. And people worry about their reputation. So, I don't know. You get where I'm coming from.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't want to rant too long. But
what she did there, she jokes more about Caitlyn's actions rather than how she identifies. And I think that's, I mean, people's actions are always fair game because people are stupid. Like, I do stupid shit every day. We do dumb shit in the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of making our lives easier. If you were to objectively analyze any person's life, it's like, why would you do that? What are you doing? Like, in her case, she left her family to be with Kardashian. And the rest is history.
Keeping up with the pronouns.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
I love that joke.
Yeah. Irreconcilable similarities, are the never mind.
Yeah, that's right. You do have that.
A couple of jokes there.
Yeah.
But and you know what I find funny about that joke where I say, him and Kris Jenner they didn't get divorced, but if they do, that's my new joke. But if they got divorced citing irreconcilable similarities, people go, oh, I don't know if you should say that. It was like, so are you denying their similarities? I think if you want to identify Caitlyn as a woman, you would agree that there are similarities. And if you don't agree, that's like you're saying that is not legitimately a trans woman. So I find that ironic. But people, again, they don't have the chance to think about it either. But their knee-jerk reaction is incorrect,
Right.
in that sense. So it's kind of funny how people, don't want to just give it. I wrote that one day thinking, I think I want to write like a Weekend Update style joke, and within like a couple minutes, I thought of that, and I was like, wow, I can that's like a late night style joke, but. It probably wouldn't make it on late night because of the subject matter. Or right, that's a good point.
Well, the way you deliver the irreconcilable similarity, I mean, you everything you say in that joke is true. Mm-hmm. You don't stretch anything, you don't make anything up. Whereas, to me, the Michael Shea joke just wasn't worked out enough. I'm sure with some time and some love and some crafting and cutting and pasting, he would have put together a good joke. Mm-hmm. But the way that he got, I see where he lost the audience. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened, because he had them with him the whole way, with the whole comparing Kanye to an old white woman, and then he invokes his actual mother-in-law or father-in-law. He invokes. I mean, Mm-hmm. And then the joke, just like you said, you hear that name, an image comes to your mind, a thought comes to your mind, a knee-jerk reaction comes to your mind, and now you've created resistance between yourself and the audience. Yeah. And I think with maybe a tag, the joke just trailed off. He just kind of ends the joke on an ellipses. Mm-hmm. There was, a guy named Bruce that went to Calabasas, and then the audience just is silent for the most part, and he realizes the joke bombs, and then they cut to Colin, who's laughing, which he knew the joke didn't work. They both knew the joke didn't work right then and there. I wonder, if he were to add a tag to it, add something else to it, to close on an actual punch rather than a to be continued.
Yeah,
that we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right. And thinking back, to the thing I said. One thing you could pick apart is the fact that I say that it's irreconcilable similarities, like as if two women couldn't live happily together. But that is already an existing term within the joke that I wrote. The other term was what I switched. So when you have to sit there and think about what irreconcilable means, that wasn't the point of the joke.
Right.
The point of the joke was the wordplay on the other part of the two words.
Yeah, irreconcilable.
And so it's it can be irreconcilable because Kris Jenner is a straight woman.
Right.
If she was a lesbian, then they would be...
It'd be perfect.
It would be reconcilable. Yeah. So there you go.
All right. And then the last clip that I want to play, this one, Dave Chapelle. I mean, he's an expert joke writer. But I think, it got a lot of blowback from his special. Let's just kind of pick it apart and see where we go. This is from Dave Chappelle's special, Sticks and Stones.
I feel bad for teas, but they're so confusing. And it's not all my fault. I feel like they need to take some responsibility for my jokes. Because I didn't come up with this idea on my own. This idea that a person can be born in the wrong body, but they have to admit that's a fucking hilarious predicament. It's really fucking funny. If it happened to me, you'd laugh, wouldn't you? That wouldn't be funny if it happened to me? I think it would be. What if it did? What if I was Chinese, but born in this nigga body? That's not funny. And for the rest of my life, I had to go around making that face. Hey, everybody, I'm Chinese! And everyone get mad. Stop making that face. That's offensive. What? This is how I feel inside. It's hard not to write these jokes. It's hard not to think about. Even when I watch sports, I'll be thinking about, think about, okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game? What does it actually mean to be equal? You know what I mean? Like, if women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? You would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us. Or, here's another idea that's gonna be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.
I hated how after punchlines like that, he would just walk around.
Yeah.
That's
It's a tell.
I'm sorry, ladies. I got a fucking Me Too headache. Y'all is killing me right now.
all right. That's enough. Just sit here and listen to the rest of this podcast is Dave Chappelle's special Sticks and Stones. Enjoy. No.
Sticks and stones are for cavemen. He's more of a dinosaur. I think he's kind of ancient in a way where, like, his jokes, he's being honest, and I appreciate that. And I thought the special was funny because I laughed at things. And that's what funny is, when you laugh at something. I think that's pretty fucking primal, in itself. But I did also find myself watching this going, I don't fucking like that. I don't agree with that.
Right.
But I still laughed. Just depends on the joke. Is a special full of jokes. Which jokes are which? We're not going to get into it. But, when he talked about touching Michael Jackson touching, I was like, no, those dudes definitely got molested. And that's not funny, that in itself. And I didn't really find the jokes particularly funny either. I literally, objectively didn't find them that funny. But that was just a few of the jokes in the whole special.
Right.
So.
Right. I didn't find those jokes funny myself.
Yeah.
Either. But, obviously people did. But this is Dave Chappelle. He brings a very 90s, very, 2000s kind of mentality to his jokes. And to me, like when I was a kid and I saw, people who had special needs or people from different races or people who were gay, I didn't understand it, so I made fun of it. And I think what he's doing here without, he kind of mentions it, he's almost just airing out the fact that he doesn't understand it. He pretty much says it up front, and then he has the line, they need to take responsibility for my jokes, which, you can take either way, but he's, like you said, he's being honest.
It's a little bit of a fuck you, for sure.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. No,
but
that
I
still,
I can at least respect someone who's being honest because, there's a lot of people that just go out there and just pander.
Right.
And they may not be being honest. So at least I can respect him for that in that sense.
Right. And it's not like he's advocating for violence or, people to disrespect people in these communities.
He's doing what Louis is doing right now, where he's pushing the envelope, but they're good jokes. Regardless of how you feel about the subject matter and what their opinions are underneath the jokes, the subtext of it all, I think they are legitimately funny jokes, especially because, why we laugh at things is because there is a moral violation that happens. At least that's one of the many ways you can laugh. It's a violation of some sort, mental violation, where you're like, haha, you laugh because something's not right.
Yeah, it's almost like a cognitive dissonance.
And so that's why I laugh at a lot of these things, because I know they're wrong. In that sense, I don't like to say wrong because I don't want to blanket it over everything.
Right.
But that's how that works, and that's not an opinion either. That's pretty solid science right there, psychology, I should say, which is not necessarily a science per se, but it's repeatable and testable and predictable.
Right. It disrupts a pattern in your brain. Like, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, punchline. Like, oh, shit, that's a different way. That's new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what people missed out here on when this came out and all the uproar was happening was this is an opportunity to communicate with people who don't understand these communities. Rather than push them away and label them as being disrespectful. It's like, clearly you don't understand what's really going on here. let's start a dialogue rather than when you start attacking somebody for their lack of understanding. Who's the worst person here?
He's airing out a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, which again, that's what Louis is doing. Him jerking off in his apartment aside, Louis is a great comedian, and he's not Bill Cosby. I fucking hate Bill Cosby, not only as a comedian. I mean, he is a classic comedian, and his whatever, but I don't find him particularly funny either. But he's older. But
Old school, yeah.
Louis is hitting nerves that are like, wow, I can't believe it's a huge release of tension. And that is how comedy works. Release that tension. Keep releasing it. Boom, boom, boom. Do it. It's such a refreshing thing to hear him talk about the things that a lot of people find very unsavory.
Right.
I love it. And people might think I'm an asshole for liking Louis, but you know what? You're not. A lot of these people that do these discussions on what's what, and again, his personal, whatever he does outside of comedy, I don't want to examine that because, first of all, I wasn't there. And I believe that, whatever. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, yeah. But when people try to analyze comedy, a lot of these people are not very intellectual. That take the other side. They're not. They don't understand actually how laughter works. There is that whole thing of disrespect and whatnot, but that's not the point of comedy. Nobody's going out there to turn people off.
No.
They're not. They're trying to get that get in where a lot of people don't go, and it's refreshing. It is, I think. Like, it's one of those things where I don't know, you just hear people talk about safe stuff. It gets so convoluted.
If it's a fresh perspective.
I'm not completing any of my rants. I realize that, but I also don't want to. I don't want to keep. I could just keep going, and I don't want to waste too much time. So, but you get where I'm going, though.
Yeah,
get where I'm going.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to air out these perspectives on this. It's to have these dialogues out in the open like this. It's important.
Yes.
So why are we shutting it off? Why are people?
Well, it's not even that. Well, some people are calling for that, and I get it. Like, with the sense of like, get Che off the TV. Nope, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's not solving anything.
You have the right to say whatever you want about it, and I get it, and I'll listen to that even. But and there are good points to be made. But in the grand scheme of things, no, you need to let these people do this stuff, and it will sort itself out over time. Mm-hmm. We'll figure it out. I think the best thing is that this does promote progress. It may seem counterintuitive, but it does. I really think it does, because the truth will always prevail. So whatever this does to over time, it's going to sort itself out.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone between where we are and where we're going to be, where this isn't even a topic that we're talking about anymore.
Yeah.
We're on to whatever's more important at the time.
Right.
That's why I hate when it's just like, no, censor that. Get rid of that. So what makes you any different from people who are burning books that were, unsavory?
These aren't witches.
Yeah, they're
comedians,
right? And this is, comedy is a safe space to air these grievances out, to kind of try to articulate a misunderstanding of something.
That safe space thing has been reappropriated. I don't want to say misappropriated either. It's just reappropriated in the sense that it really should be there. I think safe space can go both ways, in a legitimate way and an illegitimate way. But it's like, you should be able to air out anything you want to say and let people judge you accordingly. But then you got audiences too. There's your fans, and then there's people that aren't your fans, and those people judge you more than your fans do. But it's an open forum, and there's no room for people to come in and ruin everybody else's what they find funny.
Right. I enjoyed social media the week following this special coming out. So many expert opinions from people who aren't even involved in comedy. Here's my take on the Dave Chapelle special. Nobody asked you.
Woefully unfunny, and actually very pseudo-intellectual a lot of times. They don't want to take an objective approach necessarily. Again, I don't like to say that, because who are we talking about? I'm not talking about anybody specific. I would rather sit there and pick apart someone, even in their own an article they write is not even them. That's a little slice of who they are. And they may even, some of these people may even regret it after writing it, but they're like, I'm out.
Yep.
And whatever. They're entitled to their opinion, and they make good points sometimes, and sometimes they don't. But again, I'm ranting and I'm not completing my thought, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah, no, it's important to listen to all points of view on it, because there's literally an infinite number of ways that we can take, that somebody can watch that and respond to it. And I mean, the whole time I was watching it, in my head, I was like, oh, this is a guy who doesn't understand this.
Yeah.
And he's trying to articulate that to other people in a way that, I mean, as a comedian, what is your goal when you're on stage? You want to get laughs.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what he was trying to do. That was his why behind this. I mean, even doing a special, even doing comedy in the first place. Everything he does is to get that laugh and to bring up something that's uncomfortable like that. I mean, that's one way to do it. I mean, his talking about if LeBron James decided, I mean, this goes back to your point about biological and physical differences. I mean, I thought that was a great joke. He's scoring 840 points in the WNBA. Like, it's a legitimate question. Like, what would happen if LeBron James came out as transgender?
Yeah.
What would happen? And just imagining a 6'8", 280-pound ripped woman just tearing through people who are half his size.
And his misunderstanding, again, outside of the context of comedy, sure, misunderstanding, but he's trying to do jokes. You have to bend the truth to get a joke out. And that's what people don't understand. He may or may not actually misunderstand that in real life. When he said, if you think women are equal, then how come that? And well, you're talking about, again, we're going back to sexual dimorphism, not just inherent abilities as a whole. But again, he's not. These are jokes. This is not a fucking TED Talk.
Circling back to this, how Chapelle evolves as a joke writer. Does his next special, does he come out? Does he do a trans joke? Does he further his understanding in what it means to be trans in that community? So it'll be interesting to see, because I consider Dave Chapelle at the peak of comedy. I mean, he's top 5 comedians that are working right now, for sure. I mean,
of all time, maybe too.
Maybe even, yeah.
But that time will tell. But he's, in the moment, he's definitely top 5.
I mean, you can still go back and listen to Carlin, and his jokes still resonate today. That's when you'll be able to really tell, like, does this person really stand the test of time? This special, it didn't knock him down a peg. I mean, I don't think it was on par with some of his previous work, but I think what he's doing is, like you said, he's just being very honest, very open about his perspective on this group of people that he does not understand. Here's what I think is funny about it. And he goes on to do that, saying it's a hilarious predicament, probably, it's almost exposition in the joke. He didn't need to say that, because, I mean, is that a hilarious predicament? Like, when I set up a joke, I don't say, here's what's funny, and then deliver the punchline, because it takes a lot of the heat away from the punchline.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate exposition.
Over-explaining stuff ruins everything.
Right.
Ugh.
And so I think that's where there's a big problem in this joke for people, because, isn't that a hilarious predicament? Well, somebody who's trans would be like, no, I've been like dreading telling my parents. I've been dreading, actually making the transition and how people respond. It's not a hilarious predicament.
No.
What are you saying?
Yeah, no, it's a nightmare. It's weird how he talks about, wouldn't that be hilarious? Well, I don't know.
Right.
I wouldn't know.
When I first started writing jokes, here's what's funny about that. Yeah. And then that joke was never funny. And so I've edited all of that out of my set. It's not drawing attention to something before you see it almost ruins the punchline.
Sometimes explaining it just a tiny bit after you tell a joke, though, will help them laugh, because sometimes you tell a joke and you're like, they can put this together, but just because they can't doesn't mean they're stupid. It's just not enough information.
Right.
And then you give them a little bit of explanation, and then they're like, oh yeah, And then they'll start laughing. I'm like, wow, I thought that would ruin it, but it actually helped it a little bit.
Yeah,
and
sometimes.
So
it's good to have that. The other night at Funny Stop, I did my my gender reveal joke. My friends were on Facebook, and they did a gender reveal, and it was adorable. But if I do a gender reveal on Facebook, I'm a sex offender.
yeah.
And then one person in the back laughed.
Actually, wait.
And then I was like, oh, so you guys don't like dick pics? And then collectively the audience was like,
yeah. See, I didn't get it either.
Yeah.
I was like, that's funny. I'm like, wait, why do I think it's funny? I'm like, well, I get it, but it's like, it's got the joke structure to it. So I'm like, that's funny. I'm like, wait, why is it funny? And it's like, dick pic. Yeah.
That's what I'm revealing my gender. Hey, hello, Facebook. Here's my penis. So between Chapelle, Michael Shea, Nikki Glaser, I mean, those are three different angles on trans jokes. Mm-hmm. Nikki Glaser's bit was great. Mm-hmm. Talking about the size 16 stilettos. Mm-hmm. That's funny. It's mostly about the actions of the people. That's funny. So if you want to tell a joke about trans people, either really communicate your misunderstanding of it and the fact that you organically want to understand more and find a way to write a joke in that sense, or about their objective actions, like objectively.
It shouldn't be critical of them. It should be coming from a place of established ignorance.
Right. If you're talking about, you're the bad guy in this joke.
Don't
make
criticize.
yourself the bad guy. Mm-hmm. Never make a minority or anything like that the bad guy, the joke, the victim, the minority, whatever it is. Because when you do that, everybody turns against you. Nobody wants to hear that.
A lot of people have to take that, like they just do that because they want that to be the vehicle for the laugh. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it to be like, hey, here's my actual opinion on something. There's a lot of times it's contrived, and that's another thing you need to understand about comedy. A lot of it is fiction. It may be delivered as nonfiction because that's how they need to do it for you to convince. It's like you need to have some sort of suspension of disbelief.
Right. So. Right. No, maybe if Michael Shea would have said something like about Caitlyn Jenner releasing like a rap album similar to something like Kanye would have used to do, like past Kanye, that could make that joke come full circle. Yeah.
A lot of modern comedy is converging with the new style of comedy, which is very dry sarcasm. And so what people have to understand is you need to realize that just because they seem like they're serious, a lot of times they're just doing it because that's what modern comedy, it's more satirical than it is. You don't want a guy to come up there and be like, hey, I'm goofy, whoa, I'm stupid. That's too much of a tell, and it's not contemporary comedy because it's outdated, and you don't need all those tells. People need to be smart enough to understand that you're coming from a place of just go with it and understand that this is probably a work of fiction, even though they seem like real people. Right. And it's very confusing because who are we talking about specifically? I don't know. It varies from comic to comic. So, I don't want to sit here and paint everything as one thing or another. Right. But
broad strokes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, these are people who are on top of their game. And, just being able to, because I love the study of comedy. Just theory, comedy theory is great. And it's constantly evolving just because stand-up is such a new art form in the scheme of things. I mean, it's really the last 50 years. I mean, it's one of the art forms that originated in America, one of the few art forms that has originated here. And we're trying to help people get through their days and their lives in a way that, brings some levity to the situation. Yeah. And to punch down, and then punching down in this case would be, you make the victim of the joke the punchline. That's not as funny as if you make the people who are victimizing or yourself the joke. That's what's funny. You can take any topic and make yourself the butt of the joke, or make whatever outdated frame of mind that's marginalizing people the butt of the joke, and I think it's safe. Yeah. That's the way to do it. I don't know. I would love to find a way to write a joke and take it to Mike's next week about this topic. And
I think it's healthy to make sure that, you know, you don't want to make comedy a tragedy for someone to hear.
Right.
You know,
when what they're living is already...
Right. Don't make it a nightmare for people. I think that's certainly more than fair to say that. So it can be very confusing sometimes, because sometimes it does seem like there's a level of animosity there when it may not be intended. And again, it's hard to dissect this because I don't want to paint with broad strokes here, but it's a sticky situation. It's fun to parse through it.
Right.
But and it's important that we do this.
Yeah.
Because these are my opinions, and sometimes they are knee-jerk opinions. I may hear this back and be like, oh, I actually don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it just depends on what it is. I'm trying to be as honest as possible, though, too. And it's good to I don't know.
To sound these things out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a joke this week and see how it works and how I can work it out. And, based off of what we've talked about here today and what we've learned here today.
Yeah.
What have we learned today?
I hate to talk with absolutes. I don't want to do that. I would rather.
Always and never is like this.
These are my opinions, and I am perfectly a fallible person. So.
Oh yeah, no, my opinions have changed dramatically over time. I'm open to learning new things and hearing from other people. So
listen to people.
I'm not going to if somebody comes to me and gives me gives their opinion. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're wrong. Yeah, because from their perspective, they're right. Nobody walks around and is like, I'm wrong about everything.
Yeah.
Like, they're at that point in time, from their perspective, this is what's true. And so to immediately just be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're making it impossible to build a bridge.
You have to. Yeah. I like to opinionated in an opinionated way tell people they're wrong about something, only because I feel like they are. But also,
you don't know that though. You're not going to get through to them.
Right.
Now they're going to dig their heels in and be defensive.
Right. But
now you're attacking me.
But the important thing is, if you're going to call people, try and label people as wrong, you just need to be able to admit that you need to be open to admitting that you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And also provide reasoning. That's all there is to it. That is probably the safest bet.
Fact-based reasoning. Yeah, of course. So, yeah, I mean that's. I mean, how I can sum this up is, to attack somebody for delivering a joke that may be touchy, it may not have been crafted out, that you're not helping anybody.
Yeah.
So kind of be open to the fact that people don't understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And the best way to build that bridge is to be accepting that they don't understand. That's it. That's it. And fill those gaps in with your own, with education and empathy.
That's another important thing.
I think that's key to having an audience with you, like throughout your whole set, is if you develop empathy, if you, from the jump, you've got them.
Yeah.
To tell them they're wrong. I'm not going to perform at a show in rural Ohio and bash Trump. That's silly.
I think that's a little different. I think bashing them for liking Trump is bad. Bashing Trump, but not giving them what they want to hear per se and ruining their night is a different thing. As wrong as they might be, in my opinion. But I think it's important not to bash people for who they are based on their environment and their circumstances.
I think we've. Is there anything else you want to throw in?
No, I've ranted enough. We're good.
Yes, we'd like to bring some guests on the show too.
That'd be great.
And kind of get their 2 cents. But we're just at this point of the show, we're really just trying to figure out what it is and where we're going to go with it. So any feedback from you who are listening, you one person that just happened to stumble upon this based off of a Facebook link,
right?
Give us a little bit of guidance because we're open.
Yeah,
this is so new.
I think that would be great.
Yeah,
because again, you're just coming out with honesty, so it's
important
good
to be
for
honest.
that. Yeah.
What we're really trying to do is overanalyze what's funny. No, is to take. You can laugh at anything, and like I said, find a way to help you, the audience, do the same thing.
Sounds good.
That's what we're here to do. That's our civic duty.
Absolutely.
You know, now that
We're
don't-
so important.
Yeah,
comedians.
we are. Not all heroes wear capes.
These are good social discussions, though, for sure.
Of course. I mean, somebody's got to say the things that are uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, world, let's make this better, rather than, okay, world,
Absolutely.
I am fired now.
Yeah. I probably have more quips with conservative America than I do liberal America, but we definitely got my devil's advocate out of the way. And
Yeah,
I
well
liked
played.
it. Yeah.
You need that. Cool.
Absolutely.
All right, so that'll do it for us here today.
Good talk, David.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate that. And this is You Can't Laugh at That. I'm David Horning.
And I'm Steve Mers.
I am the David Horning on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm at Steve Mers on Instagram, at Steven Mers on Twitter.
Ooh, formal Steve on Twitter.
Yeah. The other one was taken by me 12 years ago.
God damn it.
Forgot the
Steve.
Oh, man. But I was a woman then, so just remember that.
Yeah.
Don't say Steve.
Sorry, Steven.
Here I go again. Anyways, yeah.
All right, guys. Enjoy your day. And find what's funny. If you'd like to weigh in on today's topic, follow us on Twitter at You Can't Laugh Pod, or like us on Facebook at You Can't Laugh at That, and tell us how you did laugh at today's topic or how you didn't. This is all about the conversation, is what I'm saying. All right. Bye.